is absent, and we'll move on to approval of the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a second? Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the agenda is approved, and our first order of business is our consent agenda. Any questions or comments on that?
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Okay,
I'll second.
all right, any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, consent agenda is approved. Next up is our public forum. Anyone wishing to speak in the public forum this evening? All right, now we will move on. We have a public hearing scheduled for the status of funded activities for CDBG Downtown Revitalization Project. If we're ready for that, we can entertain a motion to open that public hearing.
I'll make a motion to open the public hearing.
Okay. Second by Grinstead. Any discussion? All right, we'll take a roll call vote to open that. Grinstead, Schneider,
Aye.
Keeney,
Aye.
and Rogerson.
Aye.
Okay, it's 6:17 p.m. We'll consider that public hearing open.
Deanna Robinson with ECOG.
Welcome.
I'm here to speak on behalf of the project.
Good evening. This is the status of funded activities for the Downtown Revitalization Project of Riverside, Iowa, as assisted by the Community Development Block Grant Contract 25 DTR 002. As required for the hearing, it is noted that A, the Iowa Economic Development Authority awarded the city of Riverside, excuse me, I'm getting over a little cold, a CDBG Downtown Revitalization Contract in the amount of $590,000 for the rehabilitation of 7 building facades covering 6 addresses in downtown Riverside. The funds were released on September 9th, 2024. Construction is currently underway. B, through April 3rd, 2026, a total of $789,371 has been invoiced, $609,983 for construction, $153,663 for architecture, $25,725 for grant administration. The local funds in the amount of $397,477 have been utilized. To date, $391,894 of grant funds have been requested, with $198,106 in remaining funds to be reimbursed. The brick, chimney, limestone repairs are all complete. Windows and window trim are at 80% complete. The finished carpentry, interior storefront work are 80% complete. Roof and gutter repairs are 100% complete. The exterior paint, signage, awning, and canopy installation have not yet been started. No changes have been made to the project budget, performance targets, project scope, location, objectives, or beneficiaries. The project did experience several construction delays during implementation. These delays were primarily related to coordination and timing issues that arose during the course of work. The city and project partners worked closely with the contractor to address these challenges, implement corrective actions, and adjust the schedule as needed. We're pleased to report that these issues have all been resolved, and the project is now progressing in accordance with the revised timeline towards successful completion. The substantial and final completion dates have been amended from February 13th, 2026 and March 15th, 2026 to substantial completion of April 30th, 2026 and final completion of May 30th, 2026. Any questions? No. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, we'll open it up for comments from the members of the public present. Looks like it's pretty sparse. All right, anything else, Cole?
No, that is all we're required for this. That's an
Okay.
update, but we will have As discussed, we will have a walk through the project before we do our final acceptance of that. So watch for that in the upcoming month or so as we get closer to that. So.
All right.
Not it.
With that, if someone wants to make a motion to close the public hearing, we can start that process.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing for CDBG downtown revitalization project.
Second.
All right. Any additional discussion?
I will say, if you miss any of what Deanna said, it will all be in the minutes. So.
Good. All right. Thank you.
We're verbatim, we're.
Way they like it.
All right, we'll take a vote to close the public hearing then. Rogerson.
Aye.
Keeney. Schneider.
Aye.
And Grinstead.
Aye.
All right, let's close at 6:21 PM. And we will continue on with the rest of our agenda. So next up is our city engineer's report.
Good evening, everyone. Really, most of our items are separate items on the agenda tonight, so I don't know if we just want to wait and go through each of those or not, but obviously the CDBG was already taken care of. And then we have Wellness Center update in front of you here tonight, as well as I know some discussion, I believe, was a separate item just regarding the Hall Park playground and follow up there. So unless there's questions on other items, which I'm happy to take, we can move forward, I think, with wellness.
Yeah.
So, any other items before we dive into that?
Anybody have anything other than, we've got the wellness center, the downtown project, and the Hall Park playground, anything other than that? Take it away.
All right, excellent. Well, yeah, we just thought it's a good time to give you an update on the design team's been working diligently. We're about finished up with the DD plan set, design development level. So, what are we calling that? What percent complete are we? Probably
95 is due this Friday.
95% DDs, yeah. So made a lot of progress on all sides of it, architectural as well as the mechanical, electrical, structural that we've been working all together, and then certainly the civil site plan. So I'll speak a little bit real quick to the site plan, but then I'm going to probably hand it over to Liz to run through. Just going to give you an update on where we're at with drawings, and everything's pretty much, in line with where we originally had those conversations in the planning process, but just obviously detailed out a lot more now, and happy to answer any questions as we go. But you can see on the screen, or maybe even on your own, that not a whole lot has changed in terms of that site placement of the building, other than just understanding more now where access points are, where ADA access needs to be. We changed a little bit of where the ADA handicap parking stalls and things like that would be. The green that you're seeing on that site is representing our stormwater management quality practices, in which we got that grant funding from the WQI grants with the state of Iowa. So that's represented there. Otherwise, pretty consistent with what we have shown in the past. Obviously, if you were to zoom in, we have some more details in terms of like where transformers and things like that are placed. If you remember right, we did set this up so that south parking lot could be extended to the west further and looped back in either to the south or west streetwise if there was additional daycare or any other expansion further west as we go there. And then you can see on that southeast corner of the building also that kind of white block, if you will, that remains for any expansion maybe on that southeast corner of the building too that we previously spoken to. Other than that, pretty basic on the site plan. Yeah, and I'll turn over to Liz here to talk some architectural.
Sure.
Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Oh, yeah,
On the site plan?
yeah.
So the area to the west of the footprint.
Yeah.
Are there any plans for that from a landscaping standpoint, or trees or anything specifically is what I was wondering about?
Yeah, just directly to the west side.
Yeah.
We had talked about at different times a possible screen there, right, too, for.
I think that space is gonna be tiered. Like, I think just the natural progression of the land from the sidewalk down to the building, it will be slightly tiered. And yes, I think there's supposed to be like potential projector area.
Well, what we talked about is being able to utilize
That wall.
this wall here to be able to hang like
I
a.
guess I'm not speaking about within the footprint.
You're talking further
about
west.
The area.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah,
what I was,
sorry.
okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. No, at this point, no, but we certainly can, if so desired.
Well, I just didn't know if the plan was for there not to be anything there, or for it to be
It's kind of green space here, right?
trees or anything like that.
Yeah.
If it would be wise to plant them now, so
Sure.
they could get some growth. I guess I don't know if that area is potentially gonna be used for construction, staging. or
Right,
anything
yeah,
like
so,
that.
yeah, well, it would certainly be an ideal place for that, from some lay down construction. I guess and the only other consideration I would take is if we're planting much in there, if you are to expand in the future, then having to
Yeah, take it out.
tear those back
Yeah.
out. So I think if we did, we would certainly probably keep to the outer perimeter of that, which is, we certainly can do, and focus more along the roadways, if you will, on the east side and north side of both those roads.
All right,
For sure.
I was just curious.
Yeah.
I thought I'd bring that up.
No, absolutely, great question. Yeah, I should, any other questions on that side stuff before we move? And as you'll see some further details as we continue to go, just in terms of, like that front entrance area, we've been working, together on that, on what that looks like, that kind of plaza front entrance as you come from the parking into the building. And we'll continue to obviously show renderings and stuff on that too. All right, Liz.
Okay. Thanks for having us tonight. I will present here what we provided in your packet. So starting out, we started to explore some interior design concepts just a couple weeks ago now, was it, I think? So the overall, I'm not the interior designer for it, so I'm going to do my best to regurgitate what she said. But the overall theme for the interior concept is, number one, inclusion, so including everybody as a community space. So of course, we want everyone to feel welcome and included. And then also biophilia, which is really just, it's becoming a really popular way of, a popular design concept for the interior. Really what it is drawing in nature, cues from nature from the outside to the inside. So you start to see that here, and we're just highlighting a couple features. This is the community room. We're looking at the ceiling plan on the left, and then in the middle is this hexagon or beehive type unit, which is a very natural form. And then the right side is not the actual space. I think maybe we have a couple of our own renderings, but those are just
an example of
examples.
what these are. This is not basically based, but yeah.
No, did you include the ones on the?
Yeah,
okay.
down, there we go.
Yeah, great. So that's not the carpet that's chosen or anything, so take this all with a grain of salt, of course, but that's just showing what the ceiling could look like. It just brings in these organic forms, and lighting is mixed within that. And it really just allows the space to be very versatile, but also relate back to nature and bring the outside in.
I think what's also, you mentioned, Mindy mentioned like some of the functional components of this.
Oh,
like
great,
trying to, a room like this can get a little echoey, and the material that these are made of is like, it looks like wood, but it's more like a softer, like, felt. It's not quite a felt material, but it kind of, but it would absorb some of the, I guess, sound in here to make it a little bit easier to have conversations and.
Yeah, it serves as that cloud for the sound.
A little less corporate looking, which we kind of liked.
Yes.
And then just above it is the fitness studio. And this one, it's a little hard to visualize, but the idea here is you have some standard light fixtures that are pendants, or they're cylinders that drop down and that are providing general light to the space. And then to pack a little bit more punch, we're showing including other types of light fixtures and more of this like constellation, like star feel, again, bringing the outside in. We thought this could be a good opportunity to bring back some of Riverside's heritage with Star Trek and just start to think about constellations in that sense. And then the exterior's pretty much what it used to look like. Here you start to see the development of the actual construction documents. And it's amazing how far they've how it actually says this. The differences, that you would see are along the front of the building. Originally, we had shown those fins coming all the way down to the ground, and we thought it would be best to bring those up just to avoid anyone climbing on them and, inviting young folks to tackle that. But and also when we pulled that back and started looking at renderings, it felt right. It felt a lot lighter and just open that space up. So we are not starting, we've been exploring the exterior materials. As you know, there's essentially two large pieces to the building, one being the courts. And for economy purposes, we propose that is precast concrete. It's easily controlled when it's manufactured, and they just bring it in and just put it right up. It's pretty easy peasy. So for economy of scale, it was a good selection. But then
I think I have some renderings down here.
Okay,
Sorry, I didn't show one, but
that's okay.
actually, no, I didn't. I just attached it. Sorry about that. I can send out the updated renderings.
And so what you'll see in those are the precast box, and then the front being a little bit lighter. And we're exploring what that material is right now and what that looks like. So that will be our next presentation with Cole. But essentially it's showing a lighter box and a darker box, which you'll see. And a lot of that, originally we had shown two light boxes, but realistically the precast is not going to be as light as an original rendering we would have shown. So we're just making it more of what it can be, but also linking the two boxes back together by bringing in some of the same colors into the front box that you would see in the back box. And it'll be much easier to understand that when you see the images. This is just going around the building. You see the exterior elevations. So floor plan wise, from what you would have originally seen, it's not a whole lot different. We have the three courts. We did flip where the large court is. It's on the right side or the left side, and that purpose is to let that left side maybe blend in a little bit more with the community room, with the exterior space, and they have it less designated, I suppose.
I think we had, Alan had a great idea of that even before we had the standalone court on the, I guess, east side of the building, having the two, courts that are the full court on the east side gives better access to the locker rooms, while also, so that the concession stands open and used, that gives a bit more breathing room for it to line there, and then it wouldn't be taken up by bleachers and things like that. And then also the other point being that, as Liz mentioned, like if we have the community room being used for larger use, that bleeds out into the kind of the gym space. It actually allows for kind of more of a more natural area just on one side of the building. I think that is a functional improvement on the other.
Definitely. Otherwise, I think here you see the vestibule right there at the front, and adding that in pushed, I believe, later pushed the reception toward the center of the building, which actually functionally is much better. The person sitting at that desk is going to have a greater view to the majority of the facility. So it made so much sense to just move it to that corner. Otherwise, spaces down here have mostly been refined just based on their need. So nothing functionally pretty much the same.
Riser room.
Oh yeah.
The other addition that got rid of a custodial closet, so that was planned, but then we moved that inside of the equipment storage area. So it all functions the same.
And then on the second level, again, functionally, it's the same. You have the walking track, you have the weight lifting area, a couple of private restrooms, a fitness studio, and associated storage. And then just on the far right building function, there's a mechanical room. And then presently 2 storage rooms with the north storage as a potential for cut through to an addition. So that's planned for, should it ever come to fruition.
If we expanded this, that southeast corner of the building, the second floor gives us a way to actually expand and use that space there, while also maintaining mechanical and storage there.
I suppose a small addition, we added a little computer alcove out by the entrance. We heard that there was a grant for community computers, and that spot it was kind of dense space, so it really worked out, and there's still visibility to it from the reception area. From
That
below.
drove them to
I believe,
spots there.
yeah, yep, yeah.
Are the locker rooms concrete cap, are they storm shelters?
No, not officially. I mean, there's concrete, yes, but they're not, an official storm shelter. The ICC 500 has greater requirements, but it is a hardened area.
Okay.
This is the roof plan in case anyone's interested in what those are like. I love a good roof plan. Really, it's just showing two planes kind of coming together, and we show where the rooftop units are sitting. It's really nice from the ground. You won't be able to see those, so they were strategically placed for that. We provide access to the roof from the fitness studio storage room. So there, right now we're showing an alternating tread device. It just makes it a little easier to step up than a straight up ladder. That's still up for discussion. And then we also then show a very small ladder going from the lower roof to the upper roof. It's only about 4 or 5 rungs. Otherwise fairly straightforward.
I thought I included the renderings, I'll send those out, I have those in emails, I'll just forward those at the meeting.
Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you. Brian, you know, if you have any of those also on your agenda for wellness center?
No, not really. I just really wanted, like I said, give you an update. Things are moving along on schedule, if not ahead of schedule, so we feel good there. Yeah, certainly happy to give updates whenever needed and provide, additional renderings and details, but things have been moving along really well. I think we got all the big decisions made, so now it's just finalizing details on a lot of things.
What are you thinking for bidding timelines?
Time-wise, yeah, one thing I didn't bring was my schedule, but I believe we had that, it was like, number 8 right now?
I believe we were bidding in September to October. somewhere.
That's what I was
I think it was
that's what I was
September.
thinking as well, it was like September timeframe.
Brian said, you guys have been working on some of the, what was it, the site issues?
Yeah, thank you, yes, cool, yeah, so one hurdle we have had is, the soils, and some of the soil conditions out there on site. So we've had, some additional exploration done and just, really diving into that on the geotech side, and the report had a lot of coordination with them. We're working and have talked with a couple different, ground improvement contractors. And really, it's not changing a whole lot in terms of our approach on the structural side of it, but it was information we needed to take into account with that on our structural and how we're dealing with the foundation, and footings and everything else there. So yeah, some of those soils, just the original report came out that, over time would be a settlement of, several inches, obviously, which we cannot have. So just addressing how we deal with that structurally on our subsystem there. And so, yeah, a lot of coordination efforts there. It's really been the big hiccup at all, and it's just really making sure that we're well educated on what was there. So we added or asked for some additional geotech information for that, which has been good, and we've been working through that. Yeah, thank you. Trying to think if there was any other items.
Well, it probably wouldn't hurt to just have a discussion on the fact that we're giving a presentation on Wednesday
Yes.
to the Washington County River Road Foundation to support our application for a grant there. So obviously that is a big factor that could have an impact on when we do the bid letting, when we break ground, that type of thing. So
Absolutely.
obviously, we want to have a good showing there. We're hoping for a good result from that. I don't know if anybody had any questions about that while we're talking about the wellness center.
I've been working on the presentation. Liz, Brian, are already committed to attending, so they'll be there.
Yep, we appreciate you guys helping with that. I'm sure that will make sure that we've got people to answer any questions that might come up.
I got Alan, I know Brian, you're on board there. If we did want another city council member there, we're still able to take another one. So anyone who is interested in joining, you're welcome to attend, whoever wants to. If you're not available, we have people there too,
I believe it's at the hospital at
6:30.
6:30.
Yeah.
But it's a 10-minute presentation, so, I mean, it's not, there's gonna be a whole lot of time for everyone to talk, but it's more, I think it's good to have a supportive showing, even if you're not planning on speaking. Frankly, I don't know if you're gonna have questions that Brian, Liz, you guys are gonna be able to answer, or if you're gonna have anything, but the idea is that we have all of the experts in the room with us, that if there is something, that we can speak to it and, hopefully address those concerns if there are. But the plan right now is to keep it kind of high level. They have the information about the project. At this point, I think it's keeping it high level, talking about values alignment, answering any questions they have, and just kind of having an open conversation with them. Because at the end of the day, it's, they would be a very important partner in the project if they were able to make a commitment. So I think that's.
Yeah, I just saw two other things too. We are, with this DD plan setting level, that we'll be getting a new cost estimate as well. So both working on that internally as well as the third party group that's all they do is do opinions of cost. So that you'll be seeing an updated opinion of cost as well that goes with this plan set. Obviously, we try to get more and more, closer to what that actual total would be as we get more detailed on the plans and have that information. So we'll be seeing that soon as well. And then one other item we've been in the real early planning stages on in conversations with Cole is just planning for potential future solar power as well that could be utilized for this building. So looking at the north side, where it's kind of across that waterway where you have some open land that's not really usable for much else, would be a great place for that. And you could get a ground array, which is super efficient. So just some early planning stages there too, of just figuring out what the needs are with the building and what those are and what kind of size of array, stuff like that.
Well, Brian, based upon a meeting I had a couple weeks ago, it seems like with some of the expiring incentives that the federal government has, it seems like it's going to be, if we're going to do it, it would probably make sense to do it. I mean, I say a separate part of the project, but a part of this. And also based off the cost to, say, serve 100% of the facility, it would probably make more sense to do a power purchase agreement than it would to outright buy the equipment. I mean, regardless, I think that's something we need to put like a request proposal together and get applicants from proposals from different, I guess, most of the solar companies work with, investors or buyers who own the equipment and we use it, and then we get our utilities at a lower rate than what we get from buying from the producer or Alliant or directly. So I think, but based off that, we probably need to have a professional service agreement with you guys for additional scope that would be outside of what the Wellness Center PSA covers. Is that correct?
Yeah, we've talked about that and had some of that conversations internally too. So yeah, I know we're going to follow up on that and see what we can fit in with what we already have. And yeah, but you're right that thought process has certainly changed somewhat with those incentives changing and going away on how it's still very beneficial. It's just restructuring really how that's done. It has changed. So
it also would potentially, if we chose to go the solar route, potentially could impact what the mechanical HVAC section looks like.
Yeah, and either way, we would plan accordingly, at least with some conduits like that outside the building to feed that in the future if, things were to change and things like that. So we're looking at all those, planning items that making sure that you're not pigeonholed later in the building that you have.
Same thing goes with like a generator, we talked about in that
Right.
stuff out there on the north side, so that could be added in at a later date too.
Correct.
Or if we end up, hopefully prices, we end up having more money than we originally planned on.
I mean, I will say we are seeing, more or less contractors are pretty hungry right now for work, so it's a good sign anyways. I'd say materials have kind of stayed steady, somewhat stagnant, which is good, not going up, but contractors are hungry, for sure. So that's a good sign. Right now, obviously things change, but
My last few big projects, they all came in under budget.
yeah, it's
Knock
been,
on wood.
right. It's been good.
Yes, Brian, last thing, and this goes back to some of the soil stuff. I know you did report that you guys are still working on, with the plan, to have that probably be outside the scope of the bid project.
Yeah, we're working through that. There's a couple different options on how we attack that and handle that. We met internally last week to discuss that, and we'll have that in front of you here in the next meeting. We got responses back from, again, a couple different ground improvement contractors, and we just got to figure out the best way how to do that in a publicly bid setting to make sure that we're covering all of our bases there. But we got the experts involved that we've worked with many times and know this. Who would be involved in the project either way, or them is how we get them involved earlier than later. So it's working with that.
The main consideration here would be that, is this a specialized scope that would drive up the cost of our total project bid if it was a part of a general package bid? And then B, is this something that would require additional site settlement time? And if that's the case, if we are on a timeline that we know we're gonna be able to start the project, if we get a bid out, we'll start construction by this time. If that is, we have a deadline on that, then it would make sense to potentially bid this out early, just for the purposes of being able to keep pace on our timeline and then also potentially not drag out the rest of the project, but
Yeah, and I think we have answers where we definitely can avoid that. It's just how we incorporate that into that design sooner than later.
I'll leave that to you guys.
Yeah, on it.
And we're back.
Any other questions?
So that meeting, I believe, is on the southeast corner of the hospital. Just so you know,
Okay, thank you. Southeast.
I think it's the McCready building, I think is what they call it. That's where the conference room is at.
Okay.
Don't quote me.
Nope.
But I'm pretty
You're
sure,
recording
I'm pretty
now.
sure that's where it's at.
I think the email when I forwarded you guys the invite, there should have been an attachment on it that had the map or
Okay.
to it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
great.
I plan to be there a little early.
Any other questions on wellness? All right. Thanks.
Thank you guys. Let's see. And then the only thing else we have on there
Yeah.
is Hall Park.
Yeah, if you want me up there for that.
Well, first and foremost, I go over the results we got back. So this is the survey that we sent out. We've got, see, a total of 251 submissions on the survey. The areas, the questions we asked were on surfacing, equipment type, amenities, design, and then asking for any other ideas or input. So our first question here was surfacing preference. And then I gave options of wood chips, rubber chips, softball, board and lace, rubber, or other. And we have a 94.4% on a solid rubber surface, 3.6% on rubber chips, and 1.6 on wood chips. So keep in mind, none of this information actually dictates what we do, but I think this is a good tool to use to inform generally what the public is looking for and what, when we're looking at, within the constraints of the project, what can we do? Looking at the preferences of the public is definitely an important part of that, and trying to do the most we can with what we have, but, anyways. Yeah, overwhelming preference is on the important place for our surfacing them. Equipment preferences, I had a slew of different options here, as well as some of the ones that added total options are in these lists down here at the bottom here. I sorted them by number of responses, so I would view things that are like above a 70% as like core items that are generally accepted as these are, necessary things to have as part of the playground. Those things being slides, swings, climbing structures, and this one says equipment for all ages. I put such as a boulder wall or outdoor exercise stations. So at least I think we'd be trying to find a way to incorporate equipment that suits a wide variety of age ranges. Would be very good, especially if you have parents or family members, guardians who are watching their children. 50%, 50.6% were in support of, or said that inclusive or accessible equipment was something they preferred. See, 45.8 in spinners, so those are like equipment that we think of a merry-go-round or some of those other things like that. Sensory-based equipment, 41%, and then 29.1% were screenwriters. Everything else was kind of like smaller, one-off things, or splash pad at 5. There's a lot of splash pad comments, but fortunately that'd be a different project than this one, but.
My favorite comment is it's gotta be modern with Star Trek and shit,
That was my favorite. Let's see here.
Travis. It's gotta be. He's gonna hear about it tomorrow.
I think one for a planning perspective, one to think about is, this would be at Hall Park, our road parks nearby. Is this something we would want to do something a little different here? Like, for example, there's a great merry-go-round at Railroad Park. Do we need to have one at this park or another piece of equipment? Better to kind of have a more diverse offerings. But yeah, just use this kind of a guide on what those preferences are. Next question is on amenities. Think things that are probably more things that are going to like parents or adults are going to interact with. 92.4% benches, same with shade. So benches and shade are going to be necessary. Water fountain at 64.1%, which I think with the pickleball courts being kind of nearby, it would probably be a good idea to get a water fountain in that area too, so it's just on the sidewalk by the water, by where the park would be. Lighting, 48.6%. Have other seating options at 44.6%. Maybe porch swings, Adirondack style seating, or other things like that. Bike racks, 35.9%. Hammock posts, 18.7%. More splash pads, someone said pool. Design preferences. So this is where I think we have quite a few different opinions here, but 45% say modern, 23.1% say traditional. And I, in the survey, I included some like visual examples of what this could look like of 21.1% natural, 9.6% sculptural. Then we got a couple here, or one each says keep it cheap and make it purposeful. Someone said no preference, and then one said Star Trek themed. So, yeah. See, and then question 5 was just kind of whatever anyone wanted to input. Most people skipped it, but as you can see, a lot of splash pad submitters on here. But, yeah, any questions on the survey? I don't think the results are beyond what I was expecting here, but I think it's a good guide for us when looking at equipment. Generally, does it fit these parameters of what the hell is looking for, and let's get some options, and then from there, go take that and do that.
Looks good, looks like a nice survey, nice work, thank you.
I think to move forward on this, the information we need is off of these things, what were the most important to city council, and the design choices, because I think something like surfacing is a pretty foundational, no pun intended, part of this project that determines not only cost, but also what the planned scope of work is, so.
Yeah, and I was gonna say, I don't know that necessarily this group is the group to be making the decisions on necessarily what's in there, or, you know, the surfacing might be one thing that we could talk about, but I was gonna ask Brian, I don't know if we gave your team this information and a budget, or maybe you have somebody else that you know of that would be able to put this together. Could you give us a couple options that would fit this and be within what we're looking to spend, as opposed to having, you know, a bunch of meetings of this group trying to determine the details of what we want in there?
Yeah, no, absolutely, and then you nailed it there. It's really based on this information, and if we have a budget to work with, then we could definitely do that.
Yeah.
One of our landscape architects actually was a public works, parks director for a city too, so has a really good understanding of, I think, what things have been trending to, but also knowing maintenance and costs are obviously important, so, yeah.
So Brian, based upon kind of the rough area I showed you, we had 250,000 capital projects set aside, and then we had 90,000 for the anticipated around 90,000 for municipal grant for the Rural Foundation. So that kind of gives us I would say 250 to 460, depending on.
What was your request, 94?
90,000.
90,000, I'm pretty sure you got that whole amount, she hasn't contacted you yet with the check.
I saw it, I think it was like 87, somewhere around there.
Okay.
So we got approved for it.
Okay.
So.
Yeah.
Does that make sense to everybody to just, I would say, yeah, if you guys could put together, I don't think we want too many choices, but
Right.
like 2 design options maybe that kind of, and, you know, we might make some adjustments to each one.
Yeah, I was gonna say maybe two, yeah, that obviously have some type of, you know, some different approach to them, and then you could tweak one or the other based on, that preference.
Yeah, and then see where the discussion goes from there.
So I think from site work, all the way to installation, all of it, between 250 to 340.
Okay.
Would be kind of the window we're working with.
Yeah, we actually just did a recent one up in Iowa City neighborhood centers, where it's a softball surface with playground equipment. So we got some really updated pricing literally about a week ago on equipment base, specifically asphalt. Well, actually on the surface too. So yeah, we need some good
And
numbers.
Brian, would you be able to so I know the plan with the pickleball court sidewalk equipment there was to eventually kind of like
To
a
loop
loop
that
around the park. But would we be able to, I don't know if we're great on that, but basically do like a zero entry into the playground off of the sidewalk?
Yeah, from the south side.
Or would it make more sense to do a couple sections of sidewalk off of that to connect it?
Yeah, we could certainly look at that. Yeah, I mean, you have a
It might be
good
more-
shot of doing that from the south side. North side, obviously got some grade change there, but.
It, yeah, was on the south side, but like, I think it would make more sense. I don't know. I'm thinking about like kids running around and stuff like that, and if someone's trying to use the walking pad, you might want to have it off just a little bit.
Sure,
but
yes.
We can talk.
No, I agree.
About that.
Okay, no, that's helpful. Thank you. Thanks for putting the survey together.
All right, thank you. Anything else that we need to cover in that section?
Not on the playground equipment, it sounds like. Brian, do you have any other things that you need for your team to get a proposal together?
I got nothing.
Okay, yeah, if you got any questions, let me know. Right, I think that's all we need of your team.
Thank you.
And on the agenda, anything to go back to the board? Anything else, have anything on?
I think so. I think it was just, there's an upcoming meeting this week, I believe, to a progress meeting, so. Thursday. Wednesday.
Cole, do you want to cover the Striegel repair
Yes.
while Brian's here? I know you've
Yeah.
been involved
Give me
in
one moment, I'll get to that page. All right, so we had a resident, Dan Striegel, at 319 Sycamore Street, reach out, end of last year about some issues with grade of the street in comparison to grade of his driveway, where basically over years of overlaying the asphalt on Sycamore Street, I don't know, what do you call it, Brian?
Yeah, that the gutter section.
Yeah, the street has risen over the years, and then also, so Dan lives at like the bottom edge of Sycamore Street, so all of the stormwater, there's no stormwater on Sycamore, so it comes down there and then also kind of washed out along there. In the past, there was some work that was done, I think in one of the overlays where they kind of extended some of the asphalt into Dan's driveway apron. They chipped out some of it to try to get it to adhere. But the problem is the asphalt gets so thin and it's so narrow that all it does is break up, especially when you get the storm water freezing and thawing on it.
Well, this was done, what,
Years ago.
10 years or more ago, so, yeah, it's not like,
It's been fixed several times. He's had it done at least 3 or 4 times. He fixed it.
I believe that.
Yeah, and this is one of those issues that the permanent fix to this is a street replacement, storm sewer to fix all of this. But what we have, in front of you is a quote from English River Concrete, and this would be to tear out the driveway apron, and it would be adjusting the grade off of that to meet it with where the street's at. So when he enters into the driveway, it doesn't bounce his car, but also would be maintaining that gutter through there, so that storm water would continue to flow down Sycamore. Let's see, I guess Brian.
Yeah, no, I mean, John, you said that pretty well. Yeah, it's exactly what you said. It was just over time, those overlays have gone, and for whatever reason, they extended the overlay into his driveway apron more so than any of the other properties. And yeah, you just get so thin with that it never holds right. So we looked at it and Cole brought it up and drove by and took a look at it. And yeah, really the only remedy there is to just replace a section right there in front with that apron. As you said, to keep that gutter section through so that storm water still conveying through there and not have to worry about any overlay on top of it. We talk about whose responsibility is that. Hard to put that on the property owner when there's no storm sewer or anything on that street, right? So to me, that's
We went
like,
back through it quite extensively, and I even talked to our attorney about it, where, technically the dividing line of responsibility is on that curb line. So anything that is on the, I guess, house side of the curb line is technically the responsibility of the property owner. But I also do think it's hard to say that the stormwater isn't a large contributor to some of this, as well as the street overlay that is causing a hardship for a property owner. So I do think there's some responsibility on the city to address this, but, yeah, I mean, I've been out on site a couple times, I've been out there.
it just seems to make sense in my opinion in this case, that's a fix. And should then obviously also take care of not having to go back out there and work on it and replace it many times, as you noted, Chris.
I mean, like I said, this isn't a permanent fix, but, I mean, I think you can get several years out of it based off the condition of the street, but it's one of those things that until we did a full replacement of the street and actually readjusted the.
Yeah, it should work fine for quite a while. If this is it.
Fix it. Yeah, I'd fix it.
This is something that's in Alan's approval of, we thought based on it's kind of more of a resident issue, it'd be best to bring this to city council, get you guys' input on it before you move forward with it, just, you know.
So my only question is, the quote says it doesn't include any backfilling or final grading, the restoration of the area around there. Is Dan willing to do that, or do we know what that's gonna cost, or are we having the city staff do that?
Yeah, we had to bring in some dirt and seed that around there. Dan will be responsible for watering it, but look at the dirt and seed on there.
So no additional cost.
Yeah, not there. The reason, Brandon put, gravel on here as a extra, an itemized piece out of that is, he said in case we do have, gravel available, we want that all on site, we could do that if we have it available. Brian seemed like they might have some, to be able to bring out there, but that would be based upon the availability of material and staff to do that, so. I'll talk to Brian if we can, you know, save that, great, we'll go ahead and do that, but if not, it's.
Which by the time they dig around and haul gravel from wherever they have it out there, $275 doesn't seem like that big a deal, so. Do you need a motion to approve Brendan's?
Yeah, that's fine, yeah.
I'll make a motion to approve Brendan's, bid.
I'll second.
I'll say
Who's got it?
Second by Keeney.
Thank you.
All right.
This is no cost to, Dan, right? This is all city, okay.
Watering is kind of do that, but, yeah.
Okay, any other questions or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that is approved.
All right, the next thing we have here is an update on the people service operations agreement renewal. This agreement does not have I have not gotten that back from Chris yet, the most up-to-date renewal term, which would be this here one shows, but 5 and 5, what they have agreed to is a 2-year agreement with a 3-year auto renewal if that went into effect. So effectively it's a 2-year, and we could negotiate something else at that point. If we didn't, it would auto renew the 3 we chose to not.
So it's fine.
Let's see, I've also included, let's see, scroll all the way down, I know it's several pages here, but, it would be page 47 of the packet. Let's see here, this is for the last 5 years of, maintenance and chemicals. You know, some of this thing on the maintenance side is, well, so anything that's like $1,000 or more is supposed to go to the city to be paid. It's kind of hard to tell what year to year was specific. I go back through monthly reports to figure out what's actually spent out of there. But when you have a maintenance fund that's kind of discretion of the operators, or, you know, on how it gets used, when it gets used, when something gets sent to the city, you know, you could see some variance in there. The one to really watch is chemicals, as people service does pay for our operating chemicals. You'll see in 2023, we spent quite a bit on chemicals. I know we had quite a bit of water loss in 2023. Since then, we've, trended pretty well. And then part of this renewal would actually be updating our, chemical fund to be more reflective of what the actual consumption is. Just because it's, we don't want to be paying the money just to hold it and then.
Yeah, and I would say what they've got here, so it looks like they're proposing that we reduce the maintenance by $542 per month. So, effectively our monthly payment will be less. That doesn't mean we're gonna spend less, because
Yes.
if we end up spending more than that,
It's just not money.
we true that up. But I think like Cole said, the goal here was to make sure that we was tracking fairly close with what we expect the expenses to be. And the other thing is, with the money that we put in to upkeep of those facilities, we expect that the maintenance should be less. We expect that the chemicals should be less, because we're not having to treat the water as much with the improvements that we've done in there. So we wanted to do what we could, again, to make sure that money wasn't just getting banked with people service over the course of the year, and then we were getting a check back, a larger check, especially at the end of the year. And they don't want it the other way. So I guess what I'm saying is, this is probably the worst case scenario. When it comes to these, I think I would like anyway to still have some discussions with people service about what the proper level is for these, and maybe build that into the agreement in terms of how they escalate on an annual basis too. So because
It's not just a flat or
Yeah,
a set percentage.
and it's not just up to them either. I think we should have a say in that process when we renew. So that was one of the things that we've got left. The term of the agreement was a big discussion item when we were talking to them. I think they very much wanted to get us into a 5-year term, and we were hesitant to do that, especially since the current agreement allowed us to renew for just a year. And we understand that it probably isn't best for us to only have that agreement renew for a year either. So at this point, we're gonna renew for 2. The other thing we tried to do within the agreement is put some detail and teeth into what they are required to provide us in the way of documentation, reporting, making sure that maintenance gets done when it's scheduled and that type of thing. So that was another thing that we worked on with them to add into the agreement. And then we'll see where things are at a couple of years from now. And then if the agreement renews, it would renew for 3-year terms after that. So
Unless negotiated otherwise.
exactly.
The other piece, they did send us over all of their scheduled work orders. So we have a record of what it is, say, all these, this is frequency and all these task lists. I have to work with Steve on how does it actually get implemented into the monthly report. Based off of what Chris from People Service indicated, their current system doesn't really have a great way to report like a reconciling approach of like what was scheduled versus what was complete. So I'd have to work with them on, what that would look like. Maybe it's more manual reporting. If it's a spreadsheet, you can just check off, you can build up a map of what that is, and then check off what's been complete and what hasn't. But I think at the end of the day, I think the agreement is a bit more of a workable spot than where we began. And I also think like reporting, some changes like that would be help us a little more with some proactive things. But overall, I think operations currently are going well. I think it's just making sure that things are staying going well. And not saying anything new here, but we've been competitive when these facilities and like to keep them direction happen.
So the reason for having this on the agenda tonight is just a check-in with the city council, make sure everybody's okay with that 2-year initial term, and that there's nothing else major that we need to discuss with them about the final agreement, which I would hope we would have back for approval within the next 30 days, the next 2 meetings.
Well, I've thought about this since they've been here. In the last 3 years, we've had some major things wrong that, I guess to be honest, I've lost confidence in this company. And I'm not gonna go higher than that, no matter what the terms are. So I'm being upfront. And
With that being said, Kevin, I was wondering if, did you say there was a problem with the employees that were here, or, I'm just asking because
yes,
I think, I guess our facility wasn't very, I mean, we brought it up to date a lot. I guess I don't have a lot of, stuff that has been brought to me on what's currently happening. I'm just asking, because.
and I don't want to say too much because I don't want to have personal liability about.
Right. Okay, yeah, I understand that.
I'm just not confident, I think I can say that.
Okay,
So, I want everybody to know that that's where I'm at. So,
That's
okay.
fair. All right, anything else we need to make sure we address as we get to the final version of this then, or is everybody comfortable with the direction?
Those terms, and Tom and I can work on, see if we can get you more on chemicals and maintenance funds. I mean, I think we'd have a pretty close to a final agreement to bring back.
Okay.
So, once we have that, we'll send it back to Dan for one final review and bring it back to city council for full consideration. All right.
Great, thank you.
I will move forward. All right, we have an ordinance on tonight's agenda. It's, Brian, you're good to head after. An ordinance on tonight's agenda, and this is some simple updates to bring our code into compliance with what the state of Iowa changed some laws last year on what local control is over fireworks. So in that case, it is selling fireworks, it is the hours and dates of what they be launched. So that's mentioned in 2 different parts of our code. The primary one is chapter 124, which is specifically on fireworks, but 42, I'll go ahead and just read this. It's fairly short, so this is ordinance number 2026-01, and ordinance amending chapters 42, public health and safety, and chapter 124, fireworks. So the code of ordinances of the city of Riverside, Iowa. Whereas the Iowa legislature recently amended Iowa Code chapter 364, section 2, subsection 6.
Before we go through all of this, I guess I don't want to read it if there might be some changes that come about. So the fees that are associated with fireworks sales, are they covered in what we're changing here? Because they're covered in a different
So
section.
that would
of
be
the code then.
your peddlers, solicitors, and transient merchants. So that's different. And then display fireworks is something that is set by us in our schedule of fees. So
I'm specifically talking about somebody who sets up a tent to sell fireworks.
that's transient merchant peddlers.
And it's the same fee for anybody regardless of what service.
It would be, so it's a time schedule, so one day is so much, 7 days is so much, all the way through 1 year. So.
So what are we charging today for somebody to set up and do that?
Updated, it.
Because we are allowed to set a permit fee specifically for fireworks if we want to, according to the code, is my understanding, correct?
Specifically for selling fireworks.
Yes.
I always thought that was covered under the peddler's transient merchants.
Doesn't have to be, is my understanding.
Okay, so you could set a separate one. I'll say our peddler's, solicitor, and transient merchant permits are $75 for 1 day, $100 for 7 day, 300 for 3-day, 1,000 for 6 months, or 1,500 for 1 year. Which those are substantially higher than what they,
Is it a 30-day one then that we're issuing for the?
depends on what they
spend in
pay
town?
here, but it would be,
Depends on how quickly they apply.
yeah, I mean, it would make most sense that they're even gonna be here for, just 3 weeks. It makes sense for the 30-day one, but if they're over 3 days, they would have to get multiple permits or the longer one. It's still more than what we were charging before, because I think what I saw,
So essentially, like on the time period that they applied last year, it would be over the 30-day, which would go to the 6-month one that they would have to apply for. So it's gonna be based on when they apply.
So they paid $1,000 for their
No,
permit.
because we changed.
no,
these
this
after that.
is, we changed these last fall. So last year it was like, I could tell you what we used to charge. I'd have to go find the old form and see, but it was like $50, like it wasn't much at all.
So do they have a permit before they start setting up, or do they start setting up and then come in and fly? Is another question.
They should have a permit before they even start setting
Well,
up.
that's my question, how they are handling that.
That's, let's see. I mean, it's one thing if like, maybe they start settling, or they go to start setting up without a permit, that's something I have. So other like door-to-door salespeople come to town, I call Washington Sheriff's Department, they've showed up and talked and told them they need to get a permit. Typically, those people just leave town. Someone like this will come to City Hall.
So the stand that gets that out there, they email their application and all the information prior to. And then their permit would be issued before they can set up the tent. Should be issued before they set up the tent.
Well, I mean, I think it should be, because I'd be like anybody else in town on other ordinances, starting to build something to get halfway through and then decide to pay, I mean.
Well, yeah, I would say the fireworks sales is probably different than any other transient sales situation in that there's some danger associated with that, and probably, I don't know what we can do in terms of requiring, how they manage that and things like that, so that it's not a concern to the citizens, but I think we need to incorporate that into this somehow. If nothing else, just referring to what the fee schedule is, like that it is according to our existing.
So that could be a simple, like, resolution update of the scheduled fees if you wanted to carve out a specific.
But I'm saying it should say that within our code here. It should reference, if we're saying there's a specific fee schedule, it should reference it within the code so it's clear to everybody that that's what we're charging.
Okay. Yeah, I can talk to Dan about that. My understanding is that this section code was specifically on the use of fireworks and not on sale. I can pull our current code. So sale of 124.04 mentions it shall be unlawful for any person to offer for sale, expose for sale, or sell consumer fireworks unless the person is a retailer or community group defined in chapter 100 of the Iowa Code and possess and comply with all requirements of the consumer fireworks seller license issued by the state fire marshal. In addition, any person shall also possess a permit and proof of insurance from the city of Riverside in order to offer for sale, expose for sale, or sell consumer fireworks. The cost of said permit shall be set by resolution of the city. So 124.04, I don't believe is addressed in these amendments. So it would still be in effect. This would just be changing 124.1.
Well, it says chapter 124 is hereby repealed in its entirety.
Please, yeah. Let's table this one, and I'll talk to Dan if we can, based upon law changes, can we?
Yeah, and then before we table, let's find out what other concerns people might have, because we don't want to bring it back and then have something else come up. So the permit piece of it, I would like clarified within here somehow. And then I believe within the new state code, there are hours where this is. So we're probably covered there, but I want to make sure that we don't allow anything outside of what the state allows. Yeah, because I get complaints about that. I think the state allows maybe until 9 or 10 p.m. And I get texts all the time about them being let off.
Me too.
So we probably, if we need to make it clear that that's the hours that they're allowed, that's fine or whatever, but I know there've been concerns and complaints about that in the past. Anybody have anything else that we want to make sure is addressed?
Well, if we're going over this one, should we go over the one that affects the sales of them out here?
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying is Cole was saying that it's not impacted by this ordinance, but it is still within chapter 24, which this ordinance says, is included in there. So yeah, I think we need to look at all of 124 and what we're pulling out.
I guess my concern is we're talking about it tonight. I was just telling Chris, is there any footage thing on where these should be? Because I'm just saying, we've got a gas, is it Casey's property that they're renting from?
Yeah.
I think so, yeah.
I mean, we have a fireworks tent sitting how many feet from gas pumps? I guess what I'm saying is there a footage thing there? Because
Yeah.
I mean,
that's
something
like,
we could
I mean, I'm just saying, you know, it would be maybe rare, but I'm just saying that to me is,
So Lois, we would address that, so then like what our current code 124, section 4, which established that permit, as part of that permit, that's where we could establish those requirements and say like,
Yeah.
you agree to, your permit's only valid if it's in a location that is say,
that's not really many feet across. If that thing starts going in somebody's, I've seen it sitting there but now I think about it, how dangerous that is. I mean,
And I think some of that is addressed within the Iowa code too,
well, I guess that's what I'm saying. If you're doing it, let's make sure
sales.
we're within compliance.
Yeah.
I know we're not the only ones to have that same,
Yeah.
by far. I mean, being there every town and the Casey's, they have it,
It seems like it.
so.
No, sales in Iowa. She was questioning about sales tax on that.
I was just wondering how we're actually,
Be a sale in Iowa, so it should be, I'm assuming fireworks are subject to sales tax. So, I mean, that'd be reported as a 5232.
so they're running a business out of Missouri, selling them here. I just wondered about the revenue that we're actually getting in addition to a rent fee.
But I mean,
That's good
Is
question,
the
yeah.
permit enough?
I mean, it's kind of the same, but like a retailer that is headquarters in, say, Walmart, Bennett, Arkansas would be reports to where the point of sale or purchase is at. But regardless, we have the right to set an appropriate fee off of that as long as we include that. So I can talk to Dan about that. I will say the intent of this was to just try to bring our code into compliance with the state law changes. And then
Yeah, and I understand that, but I guess I don't want us pulling out
Yeah.
anything that
it's valuable.
is related to it, yeah.
The only other thing, also chapter 41, that takes it out of, let's see. Actually, sorry, do you have on here 42? But it says 41 there. Because chapter 41, I think there's a typo there, that should be 41. I'm sorry, 4113. Yeah. So this is a section for fireworks that also establishes definition of fireworks and then also insurance requirements for display firework, which that seems a little redundant if we have I guess it would make sense. Yeah, this would be something okay, never mind. That needs to be updated as well. This is chapter 41, chapter 42. Anyway. Any other thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think it just everybody needs to be in agreement on what we're charging for fees for that. I don't know if we've ever had any other interest or it's only been that one.
We just have the
group in
one,
the past.
and then we have, one display fireworks permit in the casino year.
That's separate.
Yeah, those are the only two.
Okay.
So you want to table them, or
Yeah, I guess it's in back to Dan for
Need to.
some edits.
I'll make a motion to table the, resolution for the fireworks.
Also,
Okay, any additional discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that will be
I will
our date.
get that back to David, and that should be pretty easy to bring back, but. All right. Next thing, is fiscal year 2027 budget. What I have for you guys tonight is a resolution to adopt the final proposed budget and set a date for public hearing for adoption of the final budget, for April 20th, 2026. So, I have included, this is the final proposed budget that goes to the Iowa Department of Management. There are several empty sheets on here that are used for, basically recording debt. We don't have any debt currently, but I can highlight a couple things. I did mention earlier that our property tax rate, 8.0198. Let's see, just on this like first page, it kind of gives you the, sorry. Second, our, sorry. Okay, so our total property tax generated $973,085, and then $47,565 in TIF. Our other city taxes, there is, made up of hotel motel, local auction sales tax, gaming wager tax. That's what we have in that category. Licenses and permits. So you also have to remember all of these things are general, special, all combined. And, sorry, I think the page that I have in here is, I print off different copies. The format is different. Let's scroll down. Sorry, that's the total living sheet. Okay, are you guys on, in the packet? I'm on page 57, is top six expenditure schedule, page 1. 57, yeah. You all on the same page here? Okay, so just quick look at expenditures here. I think I had this order as expenditures and revenues, but, I'm doing,
Cole,
yes.
I don't know why you're talking about 57, but I
yeah,
found it.
when you give us our agenda, you have us go into it and it's individual, so we only have 20
Oh,
pages.
it's page 5 of
Yeah,
the local government.
So,
I'm looking at the PDF packet, the full.
Yeah.
and I realize you do that, but when you send it to us, we open it up and so we're,
So if you on the right hand, the blue button at the top, you can go click on the carrot button.
well, I get that, but why are we getting sent this if we're not using this? Because then we open that one. I'm just saying, this is what you send out to us, so this is what we open up and use at the meetings.
It's,
It's
So you're-
page 5.
you're on the agenda view, click on the document.
I mean, I don't see a purpose in putting it on the agenda view, because we used to have the other and do the 50-some pages. So it's getting kind of confusing, because we're on two different things.
Yeah,
You use the agenda one, I mean, I don't care which one you use, but
I'll just grab that one.
on the agenda.
Okay, so I just opened the document there, it's a 20-page document. I'm on, let's get through the re-estimate stuff, just focusing on fiscal year 2027, page 8. Page 8 is what I'm on.
I was wrong.
Page 8, it's the one that
You're
says
never wrong.
expenditure schedule, page 1. Okay. So, what we're gonna look at here is the total of each, budgetary department. So in this case, the left-hand side, you're gonna see public safety. So that's made up of our law enforcement, it's made up of our fire department, building inspections, animal control, our categories in there. Because we have the, apparatus, expense there, it looks a lot better than it normally is, but, 1,560,923 out of the general fund there. Public Works, actually, sorry.
So maybe the suggestion, if you go to the last page, it summarizes all of this. That might be the easiest place that's what will show up in the newspaper that we
Yes,
publish.
it's the one page, but, this page, I guess, for your information, the top row establishes all the different fund types, and that's where the money will be expended out of. So, you have a department on one row and then the columns that establish each fund type. So you could have, for example, roads, bridges, and sidewalks, that's streets. We have general fund spending and special revenue, so that's road use tax, general fund. Same department, different fund. Anyways, so you'll see on the last sheet, it has the, cover of those expenditures should be combined. And that is the sheet that I was looking at here. When I printed off, it was out different order, but, so, your public safety, $1,562,923. Public Works, $435,245. Let's see, Culture and Recreation, that is parks, library, cemetery, $271,683. Community and Economic Development, $95,500. That is, a community catalyst grant contribution, as well as what we do to Wedge. It's pretty much it. General government, that's city hall operations, that's personnel costs of city council, mayor, myself, Carrie, and Stephanie, and everything else costs to run city hall here, and insurance, $514,380. Debt service, so that is 6.1 million, capital project, debt service is zero because, I'm showing we'll be taking on, debt that's in the capital projects category. The reason I have it that way is if you put it in, debt service and then you transfer it to capital projects, you are double counting the expenditure. So you're showing that expenditure in capital projects and then that also gets transferred, it shows a different sheet. So then instead of having, say, 6.1 in capital projects, it'll show 5 million in debt service and 6.1 in debt service, which is not a true account of what's actually happening. But anyways, our total governmental activity expenditures, $8,979,741, and that is largely driven by Wellness Center as a governmental capital project. And let's see here, our business type enterprises, that includes enterprise capital projects together, about 1.5 million there, yeah. So total expenditures, $10,484,313. And we have $938,642 in transfers out. Probably should have come from the sheet and done revenues, but anyways, as you'll see, our transfers entered equal our transfers out. They're supposed to balance that way. And so our total revenue with those transfers back up on transfers in line, well, line 15, you see that, is 9.8 million. So our expenditures are $1.6 million more than our revenues, but that is also to be expected on a year where we have a very large capital projects expense at the Wellness Center, as well as some enterprise costs for the sewer repairs, as well as the SCADA system. So I did not include utility rates in our revenue estimates for water and sewer, but those are things that we need to have take effect, go through and get that done so we can have that take effect beginning of the fiscal year. So my thought was once we get the budget adopted, we move on to utility rate increases and go from there. But all in all, our total fund balance projected for the end of fiscal year 2027, so June 30th, 2027, $4.9 million there in comparison to our beginning of the fiscal year of 6.5. So, like I said, some pretty big spending, which admittedly can seem a little scary, but that's also what you save for and you have for these big projects. So, yeah, that's
What's the resolution number?
this would be, I didn't put it on for the.
I lost track.
Sorry, quickly, I will check last meeting's minutes and I'll tell you. Sorry about that. It would be 2615. And I will get this sent to the paper as soon as possible tonight, and the papers will be published.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2026-15, adopt final proposed budget plan and set public hearing for the final adoption of the fiscal year 2027 budget.
The other piece of this is this budget plan has to be available for public inspection at least 10 days prior to public hearing. I think I have that in the resolution, but this, it's in the packet, I'll get it on the website too, as this is our, final plan. Here's our public hearing. It'll also be available here at City Hall. If anyone wants to take a look through it, but that's part of our requirements there.
Okay.
Well, second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any additional discussion? All right, hearing none, we'll take a roll call vote for that resolution. Rogerson.
Aye.
Keeney.
Aye.
Schneider.
Aye.
And Grinstead.
Aye.
That resolution is adopted.
So, I'll get this to the paper, get it published out there. We'll have a public hearing at the next council meeting. Any public input we'll have there, and actually, after that, adopt the final plan there and get it certified and good to go, but.
Okay.
Alright.
Good work on that.
Yeah, thank you. Like I said, I think, some of the this cleaning up stuff has taken a couple of years, but adding in fixing some departments in our accounting software that actually aligns with that department management reporting form makes it so much cleaner. That's how it's supposed to be, so. All right, the next thing I have for you is a resolution to hire a part-time maintenance employee. I have brought a application. It's actually from an applicant from last year who actually reached out right after we hired Dwight. As mentioned, Dwight was not able to make the commitment to mow for the full time this summer, but is still able to slot in as needed. So I have a recommendation of Nate Casworth here at the published $18 per hour plus papers. And the reason we would include IPers on this is because temporary or seasonal employment has limitations on it. So in this case, if you make $1,000 or more in covered wages in back-to-back quarters, it classifies you as an ongoing employee, which makes you IPers eligible. So in this case, because of the timing of the position being spring through summer, you end up in 2 different quarters and you're likely to make more than $1,000, which means you're going to be owed IPers, and it's easier to pay up front than to have to go back and once they've established full-time or ongoing relationship to go back and pay it. So I know it's going to be more than the $1,000 and probably some back quarters. So
I just have one question. I did notice it was from last year, which is fine,
yeah,
but did we follow our guidelines? Was it republished?
yes, we've had it published out there in excess of 30 days, kind of on Facebook, on our website.
It's still out there.
So
Okay, but it wasn't in the paper, right? Okay,
we just have to post it for 10 days.
all right, I was just checking, thank you.
Yep, we're good there.
I have one quick question. Did you find somebody to clean?
I haven't posted that yet, Ryan.
I would ask him if he wants to clean as well.
That, or I think that was kind of suggested when we hired the part-time person, or
Yeah.
the full-time person that, and to my knowledge, is she working 40 hours?
It's 32 to 36 per week, but that's also, we had posted was a 32 to 40 hours.
It's just a suggestion.
Yeah, I think that should be, discussed maybe. I'll make a motion to hire the part-time Nate Casworth, 2026-16.
Yep.
At the rate of $18 with IPers.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All right, hearing none, we'll take a roll call vote for that. Grinstead.
Aye.
Schneider.
Aye.
Keeney.
Aye.
And Rogerson.
Aye.
That is approved as well. Anything else, Cole?
No, I sincerely appreciate things on the whole park playground stuff put together, and we've been talking about that for a while, and also giving you a bunch of stuff in the next steps. So overall, very happy with the next meeting, so they were nice. Thank you, everyone.
You as well. Any closing comments?
I guess I'll be out Thursday and Friday, so I'll have the Riverside Foundation presentation today. Hopefully do that as well. But
Is anybody else going, or Kevin, did you want to go?
Oh, you can go.
Yeah, I'll find the clothes, I think it'd be great.
You've been involved in the projects from.
Many years.
I'll be there regardless. I don't know what side of the table I'm gonna be sitting on. I never know until I show up, but I'll be, if they have a seat for me or not.
Anybody have anything else? If not, do we have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn. Right.
Die for lack of it.
Alright, Ryan with the motion, Chris on the second. All those in favor say aye. And we are adjourned at 7:51. Alright, thanks,
Sorry,
guys.
I should just be tipping off.
I think I took.
It's 7:50 is what's their tip off.
Wow. It could be like a bunch of commercials.
Yeah,
Not bad.
you're not gonna miss much.
I never thought I'd say this. Go